I need to admit something. I didn't want to make this video. Because once you hear what I'm about to say, you can't unknow it. This video won't motivate you. It won't change your life overnight. But there's a chance, a small one, that after today, you won't look at time the same way again. I'm sitting here in a house that is far too quiet. It's a beautiful house, I suppose. The kind of house I spent 40 years trying to earn. Hardwood floors that don't creak, a kitchen with island space I'll never use, and a view of a backyard that stays perfectly manicured because I pay someone else to care for it. It is the prize at the end of the race. But standing here at 72, the prize feels a lot like a tomb. If this kind of story matters to you, or if you've felt the weight of these things yourself, you can subscribe. It's just a way for us to keep talking. And if you've lived through something similar, I'd like to read about it in the comments. It helps, I think, to know we aren't the only ones waking up to these realizations. I remember a Tuesday in 1994. It wasn't a special day. It wasn't an anniversary or a birthday. It was just a rainy Tuesday in April. I was 41 years old, and I was sitting in my car in the driveway of our old house, the small one with the leaky gutters. I had my briefcase in the passenger seat, and my hands were gripped tight on the steering wheel. I was staying in the car because I had a conference call. Back then, cell phones were clunky, and the connection was spotty, but I had a deal closing. It was the kind of deal that promised to step up, more security, a better title. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I could see into the living room window. My daughter Sarah was 6. She was wearing a mismatched tutu and was jumping off the sofa, probably pretending she was a bird. My wife Elena was laughing, trying to catch her before she hit the coffee table. I watched them like a spectator at a movie. I was right there, 20 feet away. I could smell the damp pavement and hear the heater humming in the car. But I didn't go in. I stayed on the call. I spent 45 minutes arguing about margins and shipping dates. By the time I hung up and walked through the front door, the living room was dark. Sarah was in bed. Elena was tired, washing dishes in the kitchen. I remember feeling a sense of pride that night. I thought, I'm doing this for them. I truly believed that every hour I spent away, every phone call I prioritized, every just a minute I shouted through a closed office door, was a brick in the foundation of their happiness. I didn't realize I wasn't building a foundation. I was building a wall. It's a strange thing, how the mind justifies neglect. You don't wake up one day and decide to stop being present. It's a slow erosion. It's 1,000 tiny choices that feel like responsibilities. You tell yourself that there will be a later. Later, when the mortgage is lower. Later, when the kids are older. Later, when I've reached the next level. But later is a ghost. It's a horizon line that moves further away the faster you run toward it. I spent most of my 50s waiting for a later that was supposed to be golden. I was on autopilot. I was a professional, a provider, a taxpayer, a neighbor. I was everything except a person who was actually there. I remember my son's graduation. Not the ceremony, that's a blur of robes and heat, but the dinner afterward. He was 18, vibrating with that terrifying, beautiful energy of someone about to leave. He wanted to talk about his trip to Europe, the one he'd been planning with his friends. I spent the whole dinner checking my watch because I had a flight to Chicago at 6:00 a.m. the next morning. I wasn't listening to his dreams. I was managing my schedule. I gave him a check and a handshake. I thought I was being a good father. I see now that he didn't want the check. He wanted me to look him in the eye and be terrified with him. He wanted me to be curious. But I had lost my curiosity somewhere between my 35th and 40th birthdays. It had been replaced by efficiency. Efficiency is the enemy of a life well lived. We try to optimize our mornings, our workouts, our commutes, our careers. We treat our days like a series of tasks to be checked off. We even try to optimize our rest. But you can't optimize a relationship. You can't optimize the way the light hits the trees in the autumn. You can't optimize the grief of losing a parent or the slow, meandering conversation with a spouse over coffee. Elena and I used to talk about traveling. We had a drawer in the kitchen, the someday drawer. It was filled with brochures for the Pacific Coast Highway, maps of Maine, and a clipped article about a small hotel in Tuscany. We'd look at them on Friday nights when we were too tired to go out. When I retire, I'd say. When we have the time to really do it right. She'd nod, and she'd smile, but there was a flicker in her eyes I chose not to see. It was the look of someone watching a flame go out. 6 years ago, 3 months after I finally retired, Elena started forgetting things. Small things at first. Where the car keys were, the name of the neighbor's dog, then bigger things. She forgot we had already eaten dinner. She forgot that her mother had passed away 20 years ago. The later we had saved for arrived, but she wasn't there to meet it. I took her on one of those trips from the drawer. We went to the coast. I booked the best rooms, the ones I couldn't have afforded when we were 30. I sat her on a balcony overlooking the ocean. The air was salt thick and perfect. I looked at her and said, "We finally made it, Elle." She looked at me with a polite, vacant kindness. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know why we were there. She just wanted to go home to a house she no longer recognized. I sat on that balcony and cried for the man I was 30 years ago. I wished I could go back to that rainy Tuesday in the driveway. I would throw the briefcase in the grass. I would let the deal fall through. I would go inside and jump off the sofa with my daughter. I would hold my wife while she was still there to be held. I spent my life trading the now for a then that never happened. I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Not the honesty you use for your boss or your friends. The quiet, uncomfortable kind of honesty you only find at 3 a.m. Who are you waiting to become before you start living? What are you postponing because you think time is a renewable resource? We live with this quiet arrogance that we have forever. We think we can fix our relationships later. We think we can focus on our health later. We think we can be the person we want to be once we've checked enough boxes. But the boxes never end. There is always another task, another crisis, another opportunity. The world will take every bit of yourself that you are willing to give it. It will eat your time and call it success. It will consume your energy and call it ambition. And then, when you are used up, it will leave you in a quiet house with a bunch of things that don't love you back. I watch people now, younger people. I see them in coffee shops, sitting across from someone they love, but staring at a screen. I see them in the park, pushing a stroller with one hand and typing an email with the other. I want to grab them by the shoulders, not to yell, but to whisper. I want to tell them, it goes so fast. That's a cliche, I know. It goes by in the blink of an eye. When you're 30, that phrase feels like a greeting card. When you're 70, it feels like a physical blow. Time doesn't move at a constant speed. It accelerates. The years between 20 and 40 feel like an ocean. The years between 40 and 70 feel like a weekend. The things I regret aren't the mistakes I made. I made plenty. I lost money. I made bad investments. I said stupid things. But those don't keep me up at night. What keeps me up are the things I didn't do. The words I didn't say because I thought the timing wasn't right. The trips I didn't take because I was worried about my vacation balance. The people I let drift away because I was too busy. Busy is a trap. Busy is often just a way to avoid the terrifying realization that our lives are happening right now, whether we are paying attention or not. I went to see Sarah last month. She's 36 now. She has a daughter of her own, a little girl named Maya. Maya is 6, the same age Sarah was that rainy Tuesday. I watched Sarah in her kitchen. She was trying to finish a report for her job, while Maya was tugging at her sleeve, asking her to look at a drawing. "Just a minute, honey," Sarah said. Her voice was tight, stressed. I felt a chill go through me. "It was a ghost of myself, Sarah," I said. She looked up, startled. "The report can wait," I told her. She started to argue. She told me about the deadline, about her boss, about the pressure. I just walked over and took the laptop out of her hands. I closed it. "I have a very large house," I said. "It's full of expensive things. It's the result of 30 years of never missing a deadline. And I would trade every square foot of it to go back to one Tuesday when you were 6 years old and I stayed in the car." She looked at me, and for a second, she really saw me. Not Dad, the guy who gives advice, but the man who is living with the consequences of his choices. She sat down on the floor with Maya. I sat there too. My knees ached, and it was hard to get down that low, but I sat there. We looked at the drawing. It was a purple cat with wings. It was the most important thing in the world for 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes were worth more than any promotion I ever received. People ask me what matters now. They expect me to say family or love, and those are true. But it's more specific than that. What matters is presence. It's the ability to be where your feet are. It's the courage to be inefficient for the sake of a connection. It's the wisdom to know that the person in front of you is more important than the person on the screen. I spent a lot of my life thinking I was the main character in a grand story of achievement. I see now that I was just a man who missed the point. The point isn't to arrive at the end with the most stuff. The point is to arrive at the end and feel like you actually lived the days you were given. I look at my hands sometimes. They're spotted now. The skin thin like parchment, and I think about all the things they held. Briefcases, steering wheels, keyboards, checks. I wish they had held more hands. I wish they had planted more gardens. I wish they had been still more often. There is a weight to a life lived in anticipation of later. It's a heavy, hollow weight. It feels like a debt that can never be repaid. You might be thinking that it's too late for me. And in some ways it is. Elena's memory won't come back. My children are grown, and while we are close, there are gaps in our history that can't be filled. There are years of their lives that I only know through photographs I didn't take. But it isn't too late for you. That's why I'm saying this. That's why I'm sitting in this quiet house, talking to a camera. I want you to feel a little bit of the discomfort I feel. I want it to itch. I want it to make you look at your to-do list and feel a sudden, sharp sense of perspective. Go to the funeral. Take the trip. Call the friend you haven't spoken to in 5 years. Lay on the grass and look at the clouds with your kid, even if you have an inbox with 200 unread messages. The messages will be there tomorrow. The kid won't stay 6. The friend might not be there. The grass won't always be under your feet. We are all just walking each other home. That's all this is. And it's a lot shorter of a walk than you think it is. I don't have a grand conclusion. I don't have a 5-step plan for a better life. I just have this feeling in my chest, a mixture of peace and profound sadness. Tonight, I'm going to make a cup of tea. I'm going to sit on my porch. I'm not going to bring my phone. I'm just going to listen to the crickets and the sound of the wind in the trees. I'm going to try to be there, completely, for as long as I can. It's a small thing, a quiet thing, but I've realized that the small, quiet things were the big things all along. We just don't notice until the noise of everything else finally fades away. I hope you don't wait for the silence to start listening. I hope you find the courage to be present while you still have something to be present for. Because the clock doesn't care about your plans. It just keeps ticking. And eventually, it stops. What will you be thinking about when yours does? I hope it isn't a rainy Tuesday in a driveway. I'll leave it there. If you want to talk about this, I'll be in the comments for a while. It's good to have the company. Take care of yourself. And more importantly, take care of the people who think you're already doing that. Good night.